Technology hates me. That's what it is. It specifically looks.
5 reasons why George hates technology.
That's what my mum says, George.
Well, it's just technology hates me.
No. There's a common denominator here.
Why would it work? Just turn it on and off.
Yes, guys, welcome back to the Cannon Podcast. Happy Monday. Hope you're doing well. Happy July as well. Pinch Punch first of the month. Do you guys have that in Canada?
I think it's like our Canada Day, in a sense.
No. Pinch Punch first of the month. Do you have that in Canada?
What does that even mean? Pinch punch first of the month.
Pinch Punch first of the month. You never heard of that?
No. Mr. Alexander Monaghan.
I feel like it's a very white thing. Like a very southern white thing.
Pinch punch first of the month.
It's what you do when
If I said at my ends, bro, I'd get killed.
at school. No, at school you go pinch punch first of the month, and then you go no returns. And you get to punch them.
Oh,
Is that not-
Well,
maybe in elementary?
I'll try it on someone in Germany and see how it works out.
Yeah, maybe in Bournemouth. Yes, guys. So thank you for joining us. I hope you're all having a lovely start to your week. We've got some scouting coming out this week. We've got a poll out for YouTube members and patrons. We're going to start doing polls for who you want us to scout next. I think at the moment, João Neves is winning. So we might be doing João Neves, so expect that a little bit later on in the week, and then we'll be doing something else later. Also going to start doing live streams at some point, hosted by our very own Bhavni Kapoor. So it's very, very exciting. But speaking of you, Bhavs, you're in Germany, aren't you?
Yes, I'm in Germany. I tell you what, right? When I walked out of the train, it was a weird flight, by the way. We had to fly first to Menorca in Spain to then come to Germany. So it's like we went down to go back up, which makes no sense, but it was cheaper. So I went for the route instead. We were in Spain for 2 hours, got into Germany, and the weather is miserable.
Yes.
Very cloudy. It's hot, it's muggy, but very cloudy. Rain like mad last night as well. But obviously went to the game yesterday, which was dreadful for the first 94 minutes. I'll tell you that for a fact.
Yeah.
And then,
how was the mood in the crowd? Because it didn't sound good on TV.
Do you know what? The crowd surprised me. I was expecting some mad stuff to happen in there because I've been to the England Euros final and it was that was a crazy experience because everyone was off their heads basically. But this was it was pretty civil, to be fair. It was obviously fans that are very angry and you could just tell who supports who in terms of clubs wise. You could hear any Ulster fan, if someone said something about Saka, they'd be quiet, nah, that's not true. And then someone said something about Foden, but that's what it was. It was, I wouldn't say tribal, but it was pretty calm in my eyes, just being in my specific area. But you could sense frustration building. It was just boredom and oh my God, this is miserable. This is awful to watch. And yeah, it was for 94 minutes, honestly, I'm this is, and I'm going, listen, I just got to Germany yesterday. I want to stay here for at least a week. Don't send me home after a few days.
Yeah. Are you staying for the quarterfinal?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
We're here for that. I'm here till at least a week now. And if we get to the final, might as well go to that as well.
Jeez. Are you there with a brand or what? Have you just booked it yourself?
No, just self booked. What it is I got friends that have they're on a supporters club, so they get tickets that are fairly cheap. They're £150, which is pretty cheap for and the seat we had yesterday was amazing. We a few rows in front of the corner flag, and the atmosphere was very good. And also the celebrations. I want to say. So the first, obviously, Jude scores his goal, and the guy next to me jumps onto me, right, and he's kind of punched me back, stood up my lip, and my lip just bust open, bleeding. But we're all on the floor. That goal was crazy. It's crazy limbs. And then the second goal is similar as well. But yeah, very, very nice.
Everything is forgiven by football. I feel like I've just hugged and kissed random people who I've never met in my life, and I'll never see again because of wins.
At Arsenal, you might get that, but England games, they're waiting to do that. They're waiting to jump onto people. Yeah. But that wasn't even the weird experience. It's just the people I saw yesterday. At the ground, I met Angry Ginge. Obviously, he was massive right now, streaming wise. I was just speaking to him randomly, but it was weird because we walked into the ground going into it, and we walked past, I think, Saka's girlfriend, which is she's just over there. Coincidentally, on the same day, just really randomly, we've obviously the game's in Gelsenkirchen, which is obviously away from Dusseldorf, which we were staying at. We've come back to Dusseldorf and we've gone to a local Mackey's basically, and just looked up for a second, and some kid was playing in my shoes. It was weird. Basically, I was in an elevated position, so kids come up to me and just touch my shoe by accident. I looked up and he's got Tony 17 on the back of his shirt, so he's a little kid, and I turned up and I think that was Tony's girlfriend or wife. Next to her was Declan Rice's girlfriend.
Oh, mad.
Just so weird.
Wait, so it was Ivan Toney's kid?
Yeah, Ivan Toney's 2 kids. And they were both playing with my shoes. I'm just obviously his mum's oh, they probably like your shoes or whatever. I mean, yeah, they are nice. But
tell your dad we hate him.
And then Declan Rice's son is just
my favorite part of that interaction is yeah, they're nice.
No. I was saying, I was wait, does your dad have shoes as well, miss? But it was, then Declan Rice's son started I don't know, he was just looking at us, started waving at us, little kid, by the way. I don't know, I don't know if he knew us or something like that.
Bad,
and then it's weird because And then she took a photo, not of us, but we in the background. And she goes, I just sent it to Deck. I just overheard the conversation basically. I was like, this is just such a weird experience. We're just sending random Mackies. And of all Mackies, she just walks in.
But also nowhere near the ground as well.
Nowhere near the ground. Like we're talking like 45 minutes away in Dusseldorf. It was honestly a really, really weird experience.
George, have you ever heard another story that encapsulates Brits abroad as much as all meeting around a Mackey's in Germany?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, for goodness sake. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Listen, the Golden Arches.
Oh no, but to be fair, we had a kebab earlier. We had a Lucas Podolski kebab earlier. So it wasn't all like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
It was just in the Mackey's just in general, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think from a North American thing, the Golden Arches is a place of commune for everybody.
Yeah, listen, it's a place of safety, of comfort.
It really is. It comes for you not when you think, but when you need.
Exactly. Okay, well, bizarre. How bizarre! What a weird interaction. Fair enough.
Actually, I had a question for you guys though, because based off that, like, I mean, probably to get something classic, a little technical from a fun story. You did mention, like, you know, as you're going through like the fans.
George is going to ask. So, do you think the kids have they got the sort of body composition to be the same as their
What's the
dad?
hit to leg rate?
Yeah,
The same sort
do you know
of-
what? To be fair, Rice's son and Tony's son were interacting in like a manner where I'm thinking this could be like future teammates. Yeah, for sure.
We'll get George on a
Future
scouting
stars.
bid. Yeah.
Look, guys, this is how we start. We do.
Like,
home
Angelica
visits.
goes, if you just pause it right there,
Pause it there.
But no, like I mentioned, like I heard you talking about how they made a comment about Saka, about Foden or whatnot, and how it was like a little bit tribal, genuinely for you guys.
England fans love Saka. Like in that ground, his name gets charted the most, and you'll rarely get like fans having a go. And Foden gets a lot of stick now. I literally hear fans that are like from all parts of England, Birmingham, all sorts, and they're going like, "Oh, I should never play in a shirt again." And like this is before we've obviously scored as well, and you could just sense that a lot of, and maybe it's where he's placed on the left hand side and it doesn't suit how he plays, but so frustrating to watch that left hand side in the second half because it was on our side as well. Oh, sorry, first half. Oh my goodness gracious me, Trippier and Foden were getting pelters. They deserved it as well.
We will discuss the England game now. If you're not interested in the England game, we'll also talk about other Euro stuff, so you can skip forward a little bit if you want. It was genuinely horrible. Yeah, it was a horrible game. And yeah, I mean, I think I saw a tweet that was like, Jude Bellingham with the biggest bailout since the Greek crash in 2008 or something. It was like one of those kind of like, since the financial bailout in 2008. So I was like, it was the biggest he's him moment I can remember seeing in an England shirt. Like maybe other than Beckham for.
Do you see what he said?
In the ironically
when he scored?
Greece. Oh, who else? Yeah.
Who else? People sometimes didn't like that, you know. That's what I was seeing after. They're like, "Oh, it's been egotistical."
Well, yeah. Does it kind of portray? Is it kind of the summation of what has happened with England? That everyone's kind of playing for themselves or whatever. I think you can kind of read into that too much, but.
I don't know if it was just me who noticed it, but it felt like we weren't giving Saka the ball enough. It was like they were not trying to pass to him. And it was weird because when he moved to left back as well, again, we went from playing very on the left-hand side to like not going to left-hand side at all. It was just from inside the stadium, that's the perspective I had. Yeah. And it just felt very weird. It always felt like we were isolating Bukayo all the time, no matter where he played. Mm.
Yes. To be honest, I think we've said all we need to say about Southgate on this podcast. You can go back and listen. You know, I'm looking through my old, not to toot my own horn, but I'm looking through my old tweets going, nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. This guy, I don't understand it. I don't get it. But there has been a big debate around Saka and the sort of the left back thing, which we probably should discuss. And I will say this. I think a lot of people, I think this, sometimes I think these debates can be very much like you think they're the world, but actually they're on Twitter. But actually I think this is a big thing. I think this is a thing that a lot of people are discussing on both in the mainstream and online. And here's my position. George, maybe I'll come to you first on this. We're trying to fix something that is already broken. And I think part of the issue is, in this kind of Saka debate, there's a lot of tribalism. There's a lot of people who are kind of chronically online defending their boy and kind of seeing it in that sense. I see it as this. England already have a problem. If you're building up a structure from scratch, obviously Bukayo Saka goes in a right wing. Obviously. Like, there's absolutely no doubt that you put him in that right-hand half space, you support him with a fullback, you support him with a midfielder who can sit in the pocket in the way Martin Odegaard does. I mean, for example, why we aren't trying to basically create those dynamics with Odegaard, maybe a Bellingham or a Foden, White and Saka on that right-hand side, and use that Arsenal right-hand side basically with one one out. I don't understand that, but that's another question for England. But for me, it's about fixing something that is already broken. And so people go, yeah, but it's so disrespectful to put a top 3 right winger in the world at left back. Yeah, it would be if that's what you were building, if you were going into the tournament doing that. But we've already got a problem. So for me, it's about fixing what we have in front of us. And I actually thought, I don't know if you watched the game, but I thought Saka gave us more balance on that left-hand side. I actually agree with you, Bhavs, that weirdly things seemed to stop flowing through that side, and it was kind of weird. But the problem England have, in my opinion, is one of the many problems, is the width. There's so little natural width when they're playing. Everything gets compressed. Everything is within the width of the box. And Saka gave us that natural overlap to create a little bit more space inside, to stop the clogging of the Kanes and the Bellinghams and the Fodens. And I thought it helped us. I think it's, I've talked about it a couple of times, and you get comments, this is so disrespectful. Have you never been asked to do something at work that you don't want to do? This is a compliment to Saka. This is saying, I believe Bukayo Saka's qualities can shine at left back, at right back, at central midfield, on the left, on the right. This is a generational talent. If you ask me to pick from the start, he's going on the right wing. But we've already got an issue. This guy is so good that I believe he can fix a problem for us on the left. It's not disrespectful. I don't get that. I don't get that train of thought at all. It feels very tribal to me. But yeah, George, I want to get your opinion on it.
Well, I think it's because the only thing that you mentioned there, in essence, is about holding width, right? And the idea of holding width is not a generational talent use. Like, if you need to hold width, why not get on Anthony Gordon, who would do a similar function, have an outlet out wide? Why not recruit or have an overlapping fullback in your squad, period? You have Doughty, you have Lewis Hall. That's a selection issue from Gareth Southgate. But now that you're here, why not have an Anthony Gordon who is your best outlet? Because even Saka, in terms of him being on the left, it would offer you, a strong-footed overlap down that side, but it still doesn't mean that you maximize the width on the right. So you will gain a little bit from the left that is non-existent, but then you lose a massive amount on the right, because Cole Palmer is also another person that wants to just come inside. Like, the options that people have for an alternate on the right actually aren't alternates. They're more attacking midfielders, whether it's Phil Foden, whether it's maybe Bowen. Jared Bowen is probably the only one that can offer width in terms of another option to run in behind on the right. And that's also a significant downgrade compared to Saka. So it's a case of basically saying, okay, I'm going to take a 9 out of 10 and fix something that's a 4 out of 10 to make it a 6 out of 10. But you're losing the 9 out of 10 and bringing it down to a 6 out of 10.
I get that, but I would honestly, I look at England and I go, who are our 2 best wide players, if we're just, if we're almost ignoring system for a moment? And I would suggest that it is Saka and Cole Palmer, personally, in my opinion.
Wide,
I don't
you
think
think?
Those are my 2 favorite wide options for England. I also don't think that Southgate is going to play. We didn't take Rashford. I don't think he's going to play with outlets in that way. So this is my point. I'm not suggesting, if I was building a system from scratch, would Saka go on the left? Absolutely not. But when I'm trying to fix Gareth Southgate's problems that he's already got, it makes sense to me. Would I do it? Probably not. But it as a first option. But I think this idea that it's just so ridiculous. I mean, we literally saw it happen. I mean, it's not ridiculous. It's a feasible option to fix the problems that are already there. Would I do it in a functioning system? No. But I think it's a feasible option.
It's an option. Is it the best feasible option? That's more so the debate, right? Because look, the disrespect I do get from Bukayo said it. It's very rare that Bukayo speaks out, right?
I was shocked by that, to be fair.
And, you don't take it as disrespect. Like, count on your finger the amount of times that Bukayo has gone to the media to address a media concern. I don't even think he did it with racism, really. There was points. Arsenal made a big deal out of it.
Yeah, I think it was a private thing that he went through his lawyers or something, but yeah, not in the media.
And so, from a disrespect angle, I 100% get the disrespect from a player's perspective. You are a top 2 right winger in the world. Potentially Amy Lamal now is coming on the scene in terms of you debating between it. Mohamed Salah. Then who else? It's not something that, you're talking about somebody on the come up. I've never seen an established, for example, Cristiano Ronaldo, when he was coming up, there was very many times when he would be shutted out to the left wing, shutted out to the right wing. There wasn't a time when he had a fixed position, but once he isolated himself as a superstar winger or as a superstar forward. We didn't see him move back ever. And we don't see superstars move back to their place of origin. Like, can they do it? Sure. That's the disrespect angle. I don't want to carry too much focus on that because for me, who cares about disrespect ultimately? I mean, fans feel aggrieved, but for me, it's about purely on a coaching angle. It is not the most feasible solution. It is a solution, but it's not the most feasible. And it comes down to basically, for me, when you look at this England squad, you highlighted something there. Width. You guys don't have width. And Saka, by the way, was your biggest width, and he was doing his job in every pass map. He is high up, wide, offering width. But the problem is nobody wants to feed him in. Nobody is playing the ball in, despite you guys having, by the way, one of the best passers in the world sat on the bench. Like, when you're talking about the most feasible solution for me, it's not Kyle Walker at right back offering the worst overlap I've seen in my life. It's about having Trent, one of the best passers in the world, and Anthony Gordon, who is a very serviceable outlet, very good outlet. Like, I do slightly disagree. I don't think Cole Palmer is your second best winger in the squad. I think it's Anthony Gordon. And especially when you're playing with a striker like Harry Kane, Ivan Toney, your strikers are come deep, face play for center forwards. They need outlets. Their profiles are for outlets. You don't have a channel running center forward. You don't have a reference that is going to work out wide, overload out wide. You don't have that. So I guess having creative 10s doesn't make sense, particularly when you have a 10 problem in the middle of the park. You have too many 10s.
Yeah, I think if we're going to go down the route, Bhavs, of Southgate problems, we can go there. I think my point is, and I don't want people to get it twisted.
We could go there.
I don't want people to get it twisted. Do I think Saka at left back is the perfect solution? No, it's absolutely not. It's just an answer that I think Southgate would use, because I don't think he's going to use Gordon. I don't think he's going to use the outlets in Kane in the right way. I don't think he's going to platform Foden in the right way. All these sorts of things. So I just don't. And for me, last thing on this, and I'll hand over to you, Bhavs. On the disrespect thing, you use the example of Ronaldo. Ronaldo's qualities can't shine at fullback. Saka's can. This is my point. It's a compliment to Saka. It's for me. It's the fact that Saka is so versatile and has such quality. We've not pigeonholed him. We've seen him in this role for so long. We now can't see him as anything more than that. I think Saka could genuinely be almost world class in every position bar centre back. And a goalkeeper. I genuinely do. I think that's how highly I rate this player. I don't believe that about Cristiano Ronaldo. And so it's the flipping on the head for me of the respect conversation of saying I have so much respect for Saka's qualities that I'm saying they can shine anywhere. But Bhavs, I want to let you.
No, he can shine anyway. He could be our star player at left back. He'd be our best player at left back. That's how good he is. But I think the point is, if you put him in the category of Mo Salah's and in the top 3 right wingers in the world, who else do you move? Do you move Lamine Yamal to left back? Do you move Mo Salah to left back? You don't, And so especially when England themselves have issues going forwards.
But that's because they can't play there.
They can't. Of course they can't. Of course they can't. Saka can play that. But he's also one of our best outlets on the right-hand side. And I don't think the right-hand side functions that much better when he's not there either. I don't think Cole Palmer was that impressive yesterday either. And he's different to what Saka is in general in terms of how he wants to cut inside all the time. But, when he plays on the right-hand side, it's just being inside the ground. My own feeling was, every time he gets on the ball, he's the most likely to make something happen. Whereas a left back, I don't think that is as much the case. He can provide an overlap for sure, but he's not as effective as he's a right winger. So when you've got someone who's far more effective for me as a right winger, he's got experience there as well. He scores important goals. He's our second highest goal scorer. For me, it was a last case solution, and that's why he left it till last minute of game to put it there, maybe. And I'm not gonna say. I probably will say this to be fair. I think he heard the whole Ian Wright shouts, and he sort of, and I think he's gone. You know what? Let me give it a go. Because the fans were saying, okay, let's see how it goes. But I think now going into the future, he moved him back to right wing towards the end of the game. Anyways, I think he'll stay there, and I think he'll be Foden who gets dropped anyways. Come the game against Switzerland, which I don't see us winning, by the way. I don't see us beating Switzerland for anything. So I'm going to go to the game, hopefully. But in terms of actually winning that game, I don't see it. But no, Bukayo is a right winger for me. We all know that. And he can play as left back, and his strength is for sure, and he's versatile. But when you've got no other right wing for me in the same category on the right hand side, you stick him to his best position.
I want to keep it coaching because look, the disrespect, I still disagree on the disrespect thing, but let's keep it purely coaching. Moving Saka to the left back position. How many width options does that make you if you put Cole Palmer as the right winger? Are you not just trading width for width at this point? You're not adding width because it's the same thing.
again, the problem is we're saying, what would I do? And I would try and fix. I would say, okay, right, I'd instruct Carl Walker to be the overlap or whatever it might be. But I'm suggesting
Carl Walker was dreadful yesterday.
But we've seen him hit the levels. My point is this: on the left hand side, we're currently at a 4 or 3 out of 10. I think Saka could make us a 7 or 8 out of 10 out there, and we'd still have an 7 or 8 out of 10 with Cole Palmer, and the general level lifts. That's my point from Southgate's position, where I believe he genuinely just puts a team on the field that he thinks is the 11 best players in England, and that's, I think, is his problem.
But I guess, like, what's the point in fixing like, what's the point in moving Saka? Like, it comes down, it's not about quality purely. It's about providing width. That's like the answer that it fixes, correct? Right? So if you're going to say that you're adding width on the left, surely that shouldn't be at expense on the right. Because now,
I think what you lose on the right with Cole Palmer, and this is down to how much you rate the player. I rate Cole Palmer really highly. So I think you lose a little bit on the right, but I genuinely think Cole Palmer's top 10 right wingers in the world. I really do. I think he's fantastic.
I think that's a different pod. I don't know about 10 top 10 in the world, but look, let's say I don't know about that, but let's say he is incredibly in quality. It's not a quality point. It's about a coaching setup point. You're transitioning width from one area of the pitch to the other, and you're actually losing the width. The width point is what England suffer the most with. And by moving Saka, you're moving the point of width to another area of the pitch to a lesser extent, because Saka isn't as effective as a left back in holding width, specifically in holding width. Now, I could understand if your movement...
I disagree with that. I think Saka's
you think he's better, or he's good he's on the left with holding width as he is on the right?
At holding width, yeah, 100%, because he wants to come inside on his left on the right.
Well, no, but he can run in behind, absolutely. On the left, it's just a matter about you being an outlet. He's not involved in play. He's not coming inside.
We're talking about creating width, and I would suggest that Saka creates width more on the left because he's a natural left footer.
He's not going to be running in behind off the left as he is on the right. That attack from out to in is going to absolutely be better on the right than it is on the left.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Out to in. So if he's creating width,
he's not coming inside in central areas. He's attacking the box, though, from out to in. That's what the whole point of holding width would be. It's not just about being on the outside.
The point of holding width that I'm suggesting is Saka would not necessarily be, he would be the fifth lane of attack and then come inside when he could, but I would ask him to hold width on the left and be that in possession so the rest of the players can flourish.
So you want him holding width and being in lane 5 for most of the games? That's putting him out of the game for most of the games.
Not necessarily. Firstly, as I keep saying, this isn't my primary solution. I think the idea that it's the idea that it's some kind of ridiculous idea, I just don't buy it at all. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think he can hold width in lane 5 and then come inside when he can from the left. But I think he would fix the width problem on the left. That is my thing. I think he, both him and Palmer want to come inside on the right-hand side. And I think I would ask, again, what would I do? I would ask Palmer to stay out there and hold that width, or maybe ask Walker to overlap. But I think it fixes the width issue.
I think it fixes the issue. I think it's an option. I don't agree it's the best option. And I think that you're just trading
neither do I,
width.
as I keep saying.
Yeah, I think you're just trading width from the right to the left, ultimately. You're adding another player that ultimately wants to come inside. I don't agree that Cole Palmer holds width well. I actually don't think that at all. And in fact, the only thing that potentially he could do is offer a really good cross. But he's not somebody that's going to take you on the outside. He's not somebody that's going to create doubt. It's going to create the same problem that you have now on the left to a increased standard, because Cole Palmer has just a little bit more technical ability than your options on the left. But you're not solving the width for me. You're just trading width. And ultimately what would solve the width would be adding another outlet, because Bukayo already is an outlet. So you already carry width on the right. Add another width creator on the left in Anthony Gordon. You now have one of your best passers in the world in Trent on the bench. Hit him. Now, you were stupid enough not to bring Rashford, but that's your decision. At least right now, maximize the best way that you can in terms of the center forward you guys have. You have a center forward, both in Ivan Toney, by the way, both in Ollie Watkins as well. Every single one of your center forwards are come deep, involve yourself in the midfield, and move. That's all your profiles at center forward. So why not play two outlets to maximize every single center forward option that you have? We're not talking about you guys having an Osimhen or something like that.
Just to finish this, because I think we shouldn't spend too much longer on it. 2 points. What I would do is play with Anthony Gordon on the left and Bukayo Saka on the right and have Harry Kane drop in and find them as outlets and ask Saka to hold a bit more width and find that pocket inside. I'm not, and the second point is, I didn't say, and I know I didn't say I think that Cole Palmer's brilliant at holding width, but I do think you solve the problem of having two wingers that collapse in by pulling Saka over into lane 5. I think Saka can hold width, and then it allows Palmer to come inside a little bit more, and you have that sort of lopsided side of things. And I'd have Walker on the overlap, and I think that's something Southgate would do. Is my point. I don't think he's ever going to play Anthony Gordon from the start. I just can't see it happening because I think he'll want to get Phil Foden in there, and then I think you can have Foden in there as your left winger who tucks inside in lane 4. But look, let's move forward because this is I think my overall point in this is never that this is the perfect solution, but I think it's a solution that Southgate would do and would make sense. And really what I'm pushing back on is the idea that this is disrespectful, which again, I don't agree with. And secondly, that this is, bottom of the list, absolutely no, don't go anywhere near it. I think within the game, it's actually fine. I think I arguably will fix a lot of English problems. Let's move forward though to the next game. Well, actually, let's talk Havertz first because I think that'll be a fun little chat. Bhavs, did you watch the Germany game again? So did they play? Not Georgia.
It was
so many games I've forgotten.
Denmark, I think.
Denmark, that was it. I loved that Havertz performance, and I couldn't get away from thinking if we were watching Havertz this Euros without him being our player, what would we think? Because he probably, we're in a different timeline, sure, but say he's had the great season at Man City, let's say. Say he had that season, that he had at Arsenal at Man City. I think we'd be looking at him going, this Havertz guy, man, he's got something.
Yeah, there's a reason why Mikel wanted him, innit? And you can see it now. You can see more and more of why. I think that's what the issue was, is our perspective as fans was skewed by Chelsea. We'd seen him at Chelsea in the Premier League, and I doubt a lot of fans were watching the Bundesliga. So they'd seen the record there, but they hadn't seen him play until they'd seen him at Chelsea. And as Chelsea, I'll tell you right now, they didn't rate him much there as a fan base. So I can see why Arsenal fans were concerned, but that touch is just, it's an example of confidence, and we wouldn't have seen him do that at the start of the season. But that's just him in full flow, instinctive. Let me just do that first time, and he wasn't doing that when he signed for Arsenal because he wasn't confident. He was scared of making mistakes. But now I saw his record for Germany. He has like 30 GA in like 38 games. It's insane. I think he's one goal off equaling the top Euros goal scorer for Germany history. Mm-hmm. I think it's Mario Gomez. Like, this is a player who's still 24 years of age or just 25. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, it's crazy. And his profile, in a sense, as a centre forward, is a great option to have, and he might not be Victor Osimhen, but what he is for us as a striker is a very, very good option. He can, complement the wide forwards. He can obviously score goals as well, and he scored quite a lot of goals towards the end of the season. And also the penalty itself, a lot of pressure.
Nice finish.
And if I'm right in saying the game was at 0-0 as well, to open the scoring perfectly into the corner when the keeper goes to the right hand side as well. Honestly, I think what we're seeing now is more and more of what we want, and I think it then becomes a question, if let's just say we do sign a striker, is he still a fixture in our starting 11 next season? Because look, he's our highest earner at the club, and I think that indicates to me that he is going to be.
Yeah, George, we talk about, if we were going to sign a 9, every time the conversation is, okay, how does that work with Havertz? I think personally I'm of the opinion that Havertz can be an option at number 9, also play, as we've spoken about, as a tip of the diamond, I think Havertz could play out wide in certain games. I think he could play from midfield. I think there is always a way to have Kai Havertz in your team. The detail on his passing, there was a pass, I can't remember where it was, but he was getting out of trouble and he passed it to Musiala in front of him. Sorry, Musiala. I've picked that up from you, George. People keep having a go at me for it. Stop listening to the Canadian.
Ajax.
Musiala. Just the message on it in terms of where it was in front of him and the sort of the option to say, go, it basically was saying to him, go on a run with the pass, and the kind of the detail on it. It's coaching manual stuff. And this is such an interesting player, and kind of Ange Postecoglou actually was talking about this on ITV. Just Mikel Arteta's doing pre-seasons with the players while Ange's on ITV, just to let you guys know. Levels.
I think he's on holiday, to be fair.
Yeah, maybe. It's the narrative. It's the narrative, Bhavs. It's the narrative. Yeah, but Andrew was saying, he is one of the, and I agree with him. He is one of those players who, because you can't pin him down in a position, people judge him through that lens, and that's an old way of viewing football. I think it's a way that I don't think we'll view football in 20 years. We'll see a skill set and say, how can that be used? And there's always a place for a player of that quality, surely.
I think you got to start talking about traits on the pitch. as opposed to maybe positions in essence, in terms of what you solve. So if you're looking at a front line, you need to start looking at balance of your passers and your runners. I've said this quite a bit on the podcast. You can't have one weighted too much to the other. Irony, we just came from an England discussion where maybe we have too many passers, or we have too many of one type of player and not enough of another type of another. The thing with Havertz is that he offers that off the ball quality. What is Havertz's best quality? No matter what, like, not us trying to praise the player too much. What is his best quality? It is the arriving in the box. It is recognition of space. He is a brilliant mover. The reason why we can have him in different positions is because ultimately that quality doesn't get lost. No matter where he is on the pitch, he's a mover. That's what he is. He's actually not a high touch player. He can offer really good moments in possession, but I would argue it needs to be in particular moments. I mean, it needs to be in space, by the way. It needs to be uncontested from physical contact behind, and he needs to feel free. As long as he's feeling free in possession, he makes the right decisions. If he doesn't feel free, he rushes actions. He doesn't do the correct pass, or he may mess up actions. And by the way, the irony of that is he probably in that performance missed the biggest chance of the game as well.
Which he made, to be fair.
Which he made, but also it shows Havertz, right?
Yeah, it's very Havertz.
It's a very Havertz performance. But I guess to answer your question is because I never worry about the impact of Havertz because he's somebody that is a mover. So naturally speaking, it doesn't depend where he is. He could be tip of the diamond. He could be coming from midfield. He could be from the right wing because his recognition of space is so brilliant. And actually, he doesn't have a particular area of the pitch that I would say he really highlights himself, except for the right-hand side. I do personally feel his best work comes from the right, opening up into the game. He's more comfortable in those zones. And it's weird because he's obviously left-footed. I don't have to tell every viewer that. But I mean, when he goes to the left, I don't think he's as decisive. Yeah, seriously. But when you look at play from the left, he's not comfortable. And he doesn't open up well on the left, which is very strange.
Yeah, he wants to cut back. He
Yeah,
wants to come back inside.
And it's not natural for people down that side, right, that are naturally well-footed there. So, look, I think it was a brilliant performance by him. And I think that part of the problem is when you're starting to build those striker windows that we talk about, Alex, in general, is people see a position and they say, how does it work? Whereas they're not seeing the football traits. So if I've got somebody that's a brilliant arriver, if you pair him with a physical reference that can dominate the box, then ultimately it doesn't take away any of Kai Havertz's space, by the way. Having a big body of an aerial target in there, if anything, creates more doubt, more jeopardy, because he's pulling away defenders from the box for you to arrive into more. It's not taking away your space. Now, if we were talking about maybe somebody else that was, I don't know, a false nine that could come deep and then arrive into play, another Havertz. And for example, if we were saying ESR and Havertz, how do I fit you in the center forward areas? Then I could understand. You've got two players, even, by the way, Xavi Simons, a lot of people's favorites on the timeline. I'm not sure people are thinking, how does that fit with a Kai Havertz? Like, these are similar types of players. When you create redundancy with many players liking to arrive in the same zones, that's a problem. But when you're creating a team, a budget, an idea, a theory about Havertz, we need to make sure that the people that are coming in aren't stopping him from getting in the zones he likes to do. And that's the big point. Which
is why it's so exciting. And as Bhavs kind of referenced, I think he's 25, I just looked it up. But he was 24 until he turned 25. And that was how
Is that how it works?
It is how it works. Just to confirm.
This is what you subscribe to the Cannon podcast.
He's left-footed and he's 25. Really good stuff. I think I think this is why it's so exciting that he is the age he is and has the qualities he has, because he can go to another level with a Victor Osimhen. Yeah. And by the way, all of you, go back about a year. George was talking about this last summer when he signed. Yeah. He was saying, as a kind of backboard centre forward, Kai Havertz goes to another level. So, yeah, I think it's incredibly exciting what he could be. Before we move on from the Euros, Bhavs, I want to come to this. I want to read out a tweet from Sam Dean at Sam J Dean, who said this, and I completely back it. He said, I'm saying, this is a football reporter for the Daily Telegraph and Sunday Telegraph. I'm saying it. Since he turned 30 in September 2022, Granit Xhaka has been one of the absolute best midfielders in the world. Crucial to Arsenal's title charge, won the Bundesliga unbeaten, scored the winner in the German Cup, man of the match in 2 out of 3 group games at Euro 2024.
Yeah. Listen, man, I feel
we're
like
facing him
part
next.
of me, yeah, we are facing him next, and I expect him to dominate us. I'll be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if he got another man of the match. I think he's got 2 or 3 already this tournament, and it feels like maybe it's just my perspective here, but he's getting more flowers now. He's not an Arsenal player.
Agreed.
Like a lot of the clubs that don't support Arsenal don't like Arsenal. Now they're going, oh, Xhaka's amazing. Xhaka's been amazing for years now. Like when he bossed, was it France in the last 16? Or was it, I don't know, quarters of the last 16 in the last Euros? They're like, oh, but he's an Arsenal player. He had the blonde hair as well, but he's Xhaka for Arsenal. And I think a lot of it was a narrative built from people that watch Sky Sports and they watch shows like that. And like I think people that like Gary Neville don't like Xhaka like that. No, Xhaka's a bit viral. Do you know that was at Anfield game where he made like a little tackle on Trent? Oh, that was the one, and that's why Arsenal lost the title.
All.
Yeah, he was their scapegoat, but now he's at Leverkusen and he's had an amazing season there. I expect him to be in the Ballon d'Or top 10, top 20 for sure. And Switzerland, the way he's playing there for so long, anchored there. I think he came through in the Euro 2016. I think he missed a penalty as well, but that was his come through year when he obviously signed for Arsenal. And since then, he's been so consistent. And watching Switzerland play as a team as well makes me jealous because they don't have the quality that we have, but they've got organisation and a team that is so tactically well organised. I'm going, what are we doing with our team right now? But Xhaka himself, I'm so happy to see him getting flowers, and he's a player who's just, I think, look, because he's never been reliant on pace and stuff, he can be going for the next 10 years. He's always available. He's like a robot. I think he did his ACL and came back in like 2-3 months. That guy's not real. And now fans can rate him, and it's weird because him and Declan Rice could have been an amazing partnership in my eyes. And if he just kept him for one more year,
just for the fact checkers,
he might have had a title.
I'm not sure it was 3 months, but yeah, okay.
It was pretty quick.
He is a machine. Like he's a machine. He's mad, and George. People still say, do Arsenal miss Granit Xhaka? And it's so funny how perception changes. I do think a lot of this is, once people leave, absence makes the heart grow fonder, all that sort of stuff. But the way he's taking the ball, those knocks around the corner, the sort of reverse passes, the quality, the tempo setting he does, which I don't think England have. We've got so many players who just want to go full gas the whole time. Do we miss that? Or is it a kind of, a sort of like, once you break it,
nostalgia,
you break up with a girlfriend, and then you immediately want that kind of thing.
No, this is definitely a case of us going back to the Insta stories and saying, "Damn, she was good."
Damn, she was good.
She was fine.
She was good.
Maybe I could change her. Maybe I could.
Maybe I could fix her.
Let me FaceTime her right now.
Maybe I could fix her.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those cases because look, Granit Xhaka offered us world-class quality, and I'm going to say it again. Granit Xhaka and Declan Rice win us the Premier League last year. It's actually not even a doubt in my mind. I mean, the ability to sit there and control games,
so
the ability...
You're right. You're so right, George.
To fix the left-hand side, and it's just a really frustrating thing because I think this was a personal thing, by the way, and this was Granit asking to leave. It had nothing to do. I am convinced Arsenal and Mikel would want no part of Granit Xhaka leaving. This was completely his decision, and you basically trying to owe service to somebody that has given you a lot in your years and was already close to leaving when you came in, and then became probably a pillar. It's one of the great redemption stories of the sport, broadly speaking. Pretty incredible man. And I think he's going to become a coach. Like you can just tell the type of guy he is. Football is his life, and I'm just happy. I am sitting there as like a proud father in a sense, saying finally he gets the recognition that he deserves because there are still some people that doubt his quality, which I don't understand. I mean, he's definitely somebody that's also manipulated himself to be another player that he wasn't when he first came into football. I mean, you went in from being a traditional box-to-box midfielder to being now a typical deep-lying playmaker regista, back to being an all-round midfield that isn't just box-to-box, but legitimately involved in build-up play, really key for, Leverkusen's ability
left back
into
that left back centre-back zone. Yeah.
He's a player that's been there, done it all, and been a constant. That's why fans are sat there.
Do we buy? Because Bhavs, I have a joke with my mate Andy about the Xhaka Ballon d'Or thing, and I said it sort of as
he deserves it more than Jorginho.
Yeah, as Leverkusen
yeah.
were like starting to
Yeah.
go on their run, I joked about it, and then they got the unbeaten, then they won the German Cup. Now he's having a good Euros.
Oh,
I'm
listen.
going, oh,
If Switzerland win the Euros, Xhaka wins. He wins, and maybe not a Ballon d'Or, but he win the UEFA Player of the Year.
No,
I
he
think
should win the Ballon d'Or if they win the Euros. Switzerland.
if Switzerland
That's
win the
reserved
Euros,
for Real Madrid
Xhaka
players.
Ballon d'Or.
Unfortunately, that's the issue.
No, absolutely. That would be especially. I think maybe with the Europa League, I'd be less outraged. Like if
The Ballon d'Or's always like a year behind. They always give the player deserves it a year after. That's the issue. Like we've seen it before.
I think if
with Lewandowski.
if he wins the Euros
And
and,
Benzema.
had won Europa League, that's the Ballon d'Or.
No,
You
yeah,
have to
yeah,
have
listen.
that.
Invincible
Listen.
season with
Because
the
look,
Euros.
because I'm saying UEFA Players of the Year because that's what Jorginho won. I'm pretty sure he was the UEFA Men's Player of the Year, and that came from winning the Champions League, winning the Euros. He got to the Europa League final. He's won the Bundesliga as well. If he wins the Euros with Switzerland of all countries as well,
Yeah.
listen, we will be there.
We will be there. We will be there. Let's come to Arsenal then, and you'll notice that we're going to spend about 20 minutes on Arsenal because there's not a lot loads to discuss. I want to come to a couple of things. The first thing I want to talk about, because we haven't really necessarily done this, I think it's starting to be prediction season for next year, so I want to come to it. We'll talk about tactical predictions for next year and how we think we'll develop, because we know we will. I don't think anyone is doubting that Arsenal will change something tactically. I think the precedent has been set every single year, whether it was Zinchenko or the build-up structure or Saka's positioning or whatever it might be. Something has shifted year on year. I want to put two things forward that I think will change. I know, George, you've got some stuff, and I'll come to you as well. Bhavs, I was looking at our carry numbers. So in terms of overall carries, which is overall progression, in terms of progressing up the pitch on FBref, I think I'm right in saying we're something like 6th in the league. And I think our progressive passing numbers are pretty good. Like we're up there in terms of the passing numbers. Our progressive carrying numbers are heavily, ironically, carried by Saka and Martinelli. They are very high on the list. And then the progressive carries from your Rices, your Odegaards, your sort of from deep are lower. I think if we want to get up those progression numbers, I think we'll start to see more carries from deep. This is something we've spoken about. I think we'll see more from Rice. I think we'll see more from Saliba. I think we might see more from a midfielder that we might sign. We might see obviously during Timber as well. I was about to say. I think that's one of my big predictions for next season. I think we'll see carries. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on that. And also, I think the rotations next season in the forward areas will go to a new level. I really feel that. I really feel we'll see a lot more of Saka inside. I think we'll see a lot more of Martinelli inside. I think we'll see Martinelli and Saka switching wings. I think we'll see Havertz going out right. I think whoever we sign up front will have to be kind of versatile. I think it was a period in like 22-23 where we were really, really fluid, and we kind of didn't see it last season. I feel we're going to go back to that to kind of create, you can't just go, right, guys, go wherever you want. But this group have spent enough time together now to go, okay, well, we always know there's got to be someone playing wide. There's got to be someone pulling off in the half space. There's got to be someone attacking the last line. There's got to be someone doing this or that. I think we'll see a lot of that going on. Those are my two main ones. Bowles, I'll come to you in terms of your reaction to that first, and then maybe George, get your predictions.
I can definitely see it, and a lot of it depends on. Oh my bad!
Don't cry, mate.
What
midfielder? It's just predictions.
Yeah.
Mate.
What midfielder do we sign? Do we sign an Eze or someone like that? 100%, and then it goes up for sure. And also, I think we'll see a resurgence from the likes of Gabriel Martinelli. And of course, if you're a Timber starting as well, then I think we'll see him do that a lot more often as well. And if we go for a profile as well, like Kayo Fury, with the reported links to that, I mean, we're 100% going to see more of that as well. So I can see why. And I can see the reason why we need it as well. It's something that we don't have right now. Something that we need as well. I wouldn't be surprised also if we saw the diamond at the first game of the season. I think we'll see more of that next year as well, if Timber's available. With Havertz and a striker being signed as well. With Havertz playing as a secondary striker, tip of the diamond. I think we'll see that in more often, more and more games. But ultimately, I think the fluidity part. I don't know, man. There is a feeling that Mikel has become a bit more structured now. And I don't think he'll pull it back a little bit. Maybe on the left-hand side, we'll see more fluidity and where that gets fixed. But the overall fluidity aspect, I'm not quite sure.
George, thoughts on those two predictions? And also, I think you said you've obviously got predictions. It's you. Come on.
Yeah, I think my end of season Timber conversion to center midfielder, I think, will be realized quite a bit more next year.
Okay.
I think there's going to be a lot more instances of him playing in midfield. I
You
think
all laughed at me.
Yeah, exactly. The Havertz point, I had made it a while back, but I can see Havertz operating in a Mandzukic role, very similar to how Juventus used it, where you're talking about a tall, physical outlet, maybe not left wing, but right wing, same role, where you're basically having somebody pull out, and he did it for Leverkusen quite a bit.
For the non-football nerds, what does that look like?
I mean, it means it's kind of like a back
What do I
post
mean by
cross. Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Just somebody that can operate in lane 5, that can deliver dangerous crosses, and as well be a target to hit aerially from, a goalkeeper or from a long switch. By the way, the last part of this also, I do think that we increase our switches. It's pretty shambolic that we're third from bottom in the league for it. And I do slightly disagree.
But Mikel hates switches, George.
Well,
he hates them.
Well, exactly. We must misquote, otherwise it's not social media. But I think that in order for us to solve some of our biggest problems, whether that is hitting the left-hand side and our attackers earlier, getting our attackers inside, getting over that mid-block, a large crux of that is more effective long switches, earlier, quicker, more efficiently. Lastly, I think on the fluidity point, I think we're going to start to see a lot more instances where we attack with 6 players. We have a 6 lane of attack. People are more traditional in terms of the 5. They recognize that 5. But I think that, we're going to look at the striker occupying the box quite a bit more. And we're, by the way, going to see that, in my opinion, in the Premier League broadly. And we're going to see a return to 2 twin striker systems in general, in my opinion. And I think that the second striker is going to be more of a roaming player that can offer width on either side. You're still going to have half-space creators. You're going to still have width holders. But the center forward and his partner second striker is going to be a twin partnership. It's going to be the modern little large. And it won't quite be little large, but it'll be in the sense of box and arriver large. That makes sense. So you're going to have one person occupy the box, and you're going to have another person that's primed in terms of arriving into the box. And that interplay is going to be probably the next big switch. And I do foresee a lot of teams adopting more mid blocks, but don't be surprised if the back 3 makes a return, broadly speaking. Not just for Arsenal in terms of Calafiori.
In possession or out of possession?
I think both for smaller teams. I think 3-5-2s, in order to combat this extra attacker that's going to be happening, is going to happen where you're going to try to add width down the wings because they're leaving 4 players to defend at the back, and they're going to add width as much as they can. So I do think that you're going to see a 3-5-2 transition from lower teams.
Yes, I like that. Like those thoughts. I think the 6 lanes. Yeah, we've seen it. Like, I can't remember against Bournemouth. A couple of seasons ago we saw that. I think it's. I think it's something that Arteta will want to do at some point. The only other thing maybe on the table then is the Ødegaard position, and it's something that he's kind of flittering around. I remember when Ødegaard played that pass to Kai Havertz in the Chelsea game. The Arsenal nerd sphere, you included, George, went mad. I think, can you imagine, we got to a point where we're so into football that someone playing a pass is like, it's like Christmas. A pass, a simple pass. Do you remember that thing when I watched football with someone recently who never really watches football, and I was like, if I try to explain what I enjoy about this game, you're going to think I'm actually mental. Like, what I enjoy about this is not like the goals or whatever. It's like, oh my God, Saka just did
control. It's the field tilt.
Yeah, it's the field tilt, whatever. But yeah, I think just on the Ødegaard thing, Bhavs, do you see him go? What I see is Ødegaard having a freer role. I think we're going to sign a more passy midfield role, which I think also, George, to come to your point, I wonder if we almost see I'm not saying we're going to sign Toni Kroos. I wouldn't mind it. But say we sign that sort of profile who can drop out the block with the 6 lanes like Germany had in the first game against Scotland. I think I can see that sort of happening if we sign a sort of passy midfield profile. But I think if we do sign that, whoever that might be, if it's a Supermendy or whatever, I think Ødegaard might have a freer role in certain areas. And so we'll see him on the left more, but he's not going to start from the left, if that makes sense. But yeah, what's your sense on that?
I think we've already seen aspects of that, towards the end of our season. In terms of the second half of the season, the City can play as a more midfielder. there was many occasions where he drifted over to the left-hand side and, played some lovely passes. I think that is just one example. So I think, you could see Mikel doubling down on that more often. And it's something that, I don't expect him to ever just start on the left. As a fantasy some fans have, I don't see it happening because of how fluid he is on the right-hand side with Ben White and stuff and the profiles that we have available on that side. So, I could hear that. I can see him doing more of that. And look, we've seen it. And I think also it can catch teams by surprise. Rather than starting him there, let him drift over at times, if you feel for the game, sometimes on a pitch you can tell that the game's not working on the right hand side. Let me go to the left hand side, let me see what happens over there for a sec. And it's an option to have, almost like a little ace and to pull out of the cards, and I feel like it could be very effective as well. We've seen the quality, the passes, that Odegaard pass to Havertz was sublime, and I think there's another pass as well he played right towards the end of the season on the left hand side.
There's been tons
I think
of
he even
actions.
scored a goal from there.
There's been tons of actions from the left in which
it all started, I think. It was a pre-season game against Chelsea where he played a pass to Martinelli on the other side, and we're like, oh, actually, he actually looks nice on that side there.
Yeah.
And it was another one where I think against Liverpool years ago where he played a pass. It was again to Martinelli. We talked about that partnership working out.
Or the Brighton one as well. Yeah, I think George. I think.
Oh, George is gone.
He's gone. Bye, guys. We're back. I think Arteta really values Odegaard dropping out the block on the right because of what it means for Saka and White. I think he really values that. And I think another profile on the right-hand side in sort of maybe clogging up that space and isn't as effective when dropping out the block might be a problem. That's like, I think a lot of this discussion is he's better on the left. It's like, well, what's the reasons he's stuck him in on the right? Let's actually look at that. Yeah, it's not as if Mikel hasn't thought about this. So why is he keeping him on the right, in your view?
I mean, some of it's frustrating because I'll be honest, he solves a lot of the same issues or could do the same role on the left. And you just switch the role of your fullbacks a little bit. But ultimately, I don't think he has the profile to really make that thrive. So, for example, Ben White, in terms of his ability to really provide that width in lane 5 and really basically be a right wing back at times, because Odegaard's dropping out of the block, means that if you were to move Odegaard to perform a similar role on the left, where he's maybe dropping outside the block on the left, means that you need more of an inverted right back from the right. And so you'd see Ben White, which, by the way, we saw instances of him being an inverted fullback to allow Kivior to be a lot higher up. So, but look, some of it is, I've shared this criticism. I feel like Odegaard's the only player in the 11 that hasn't been effectively moved. Everybody else at some point has had the opportunity to move, and there is a certain reluctance that I can't explain tactically, because we absolutely could recreate dynamics in an alternate sense on the left to allow him to do that. When people say, let's move Odegaard from the left, it's not because we don't want to see a better Odegaard. It's because there's opportunities where when pairing him with a more natural runner, you could see him increase his output a lot more, become a lot more potent, and maybe help things that the team lacks, because from the right-hand side, we see how dominant it is. So if we're looking to become more dominant on the left, surely you want to add your most high-touch player to that side to help it out. And so that's been part of the logic for moving him. Why he hasn't, I mean, again, honestly, some of it has to do with chemistry. I mean, those three, they hang out together outside, not just on the pitch and off the pitch. I mean, they are a pod that really function well together in many ways. They know each other inside out. And part of the reason that fluidity is so great is because they both understand each other's actions. So, I mean, I'm sure if he was to move to the left, there'd be a bedding in period. So maybe there's an aspect of that. But again, we've moved every single player in this 11. Gabriel's been moved to central center back. Saliba's gone from left center back. Kivior has played everything but left center back, even though that's his natural position. I kid. But you look at like everybody in the squad, and they've had an opportunity to play in a different area of the pitch, except for Martin Odegaard. So there is a level of, I get why he's on the right, but also there's another level of, why are you the only one? Ben has moved from center back. In fact, I'd probably ask you guys, is there another player genuinely that hasn't moved? I don't think there is. I mean, even Eddie's played left wing. I mean, if you go across.
I mean, I would argue Martin has quite a free role. So
I'd say Raya maybe.
Raya hasn't moved. Even Cedric played left back. Pablo Mari didn't move from left centre back.
Yeah, Mari didn't move.
Did you see that some people were falling for that joke tweet about Mustafi coming back to Arsenal?
I showed it someone actually fell for it as well in person.
Of course they did. What was I going to say? Yeah, I mean, part of this, Baz, because we haven't actually got time to sort of fully go into it now, But I wanted to talk a little bit about the links to Kimmich and the idea that he might be moving this year or next year, and there's only 5 clubs, and Arsenal one of them, etc., etc. And we all saw that clip, or we might not have seen it, but there's a clip.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It's quite
Confirmed news, transfer news.
Yeah. That oh god, the TikTok, is that what you're talking about? The TikTok of the guy.
That's the clip.
It's so funny. I was talking about the clip of Kimmich essentially challenging. I don't speak German, so I struggle to.
We could talk about that as well.
It was challenging Hansi Flick, and I do wonder, like Martin Odegaard. I think Ramsdale's spoken before about how close he is with Mikel Arteta. I think he called him parched, which, if you understand what that means in terms of the Peter Crouch, it's basically the teacher's pet in the squad. I can imagine that. And I do wonder, like, I'm not saying necessarily moving Martin Odegaard is an example of this, but can players, do we feel that players like Martin Odegaard can challenge Mikel and say, actually, Mikel, I feel I will be best on the left-hand side, and actually get the chance to do that? And if not, do we feel we need that? And if we do need that, if he's ongoing, do we need someone like a Joshua Kimmich, who is willing, thank you very much, learn from the best, who is willing to challenge, clearly willing to challenge. I watched that clip, and it's such an Arsenal nerdy thing to care about. But I do feel this. I just don't know who challenges Mikel. And that's not necessarily a problem, because I think he's a generational coach. And it's like asking who challenges Pep. I was like, well, he's a genius.
Pep, exactly,
I'm not saying Mikel is Pep, but he's clearly a very, very good coach. So to some degree, not many people can challenge him. But I don't know. I wonder if there's another level this team can go to if we do get someone who can challenge.
I feel it's weird because Odegaard's character himself, I could see him becoming more and more vocal anyways. And I'm not sure to Mikel specifically, but on the pitch to other players, the idea of Odegaard when he got the captaincy was that he's a very quiet Ozil type player where he's just going to get about his business. Now he's like, no, he will shout at players to get in this area. And there was that clip with last year with Sambi Lokonga where he was out of position against Man City. So he's getting to that stage anyways. And I feel like the more comfortable they are in this old system, they'll start to go, okay, no, I can challenge him without feeling disrespectful. I feel like when we watched the Amazon Prime documentary, that it felt like it was a new teacher's coming to the school and these kids are all like naughty kids and he has to discipline them. I feel now it's different. The naughty kids are all gone. Different schools now. Yeah. No. Yeah, I think, and I feel like now any player that puts anything forwards will have something behind it. It won't just be like an agenda of, I want to be more lazy. It's like, no, we can see this is why. And Mikel can, I think he's such a good learner that he will see straight away, okay, maybe he's got a point. And Kimmich is someone who does that. You could see it. I think I saw another article about him being a very vocal player at Bayern as well. And some managers don't appreciate it. I think it was the previous Bayern manager. Was it maybe even Tuchel wasn't a big fan of that. So yeah, I want to see how Mikel is when he's challenged, because ultimately he can give the great tactics he can. But when you're on the pitch, sometimes you might have a feel for something else. Yeah. Because these are the guys with the ball on the pitch, and I feel like that's exactly what we need.
I think that's bang on. Like, they're the protagonists, and Mikel says that all the time. And sometimes you do need to let them teach you a little bit. Yeah, we're getting to the point of the season where maybe we're overanalyzing stuff, and I completely accept that. But I was watching the clip of Saka and with like Josh Denzel, I think it was. Yeah, he's still very, and people accuse me of analysing. I understand, but he's still very PR. And I really liked that thing that you mentioned, George, earlier about saying that's not the answer. I want a bit more of that in the team, and I want a bit more of that in the squad. Do you think this is a natural thing that's going to happen over the next couple of years? I won't cry. With the team, where they're going to mature, they're going to become a little bit more sure of themselves, and they're going to start to challenge Mikel? Or do you think this is something we need to like lace into the squad from an external perspective?
It's what needs to happen in order for the squad to be successful. I mean, I think that, look, when you have a classroom or even a team or a management group that is underperforming and not doing the right things and having bad habits, you need an authoritarian person to come and set the rules and the standards well, which is what we've done at this point. Now,
the fogging is standards, actually.
I'm never going to do that. But you do, like, you need to set the idea. But then in terms of innovating, right, that's just to get you competing, right? There's a certain level of mentality you need to compete. Now that you're competing, to be the reference, to go a little bit beyond that, and to create, to innovate, to become the reference, you need now your own people, your players, your employees, to create a gap. And I think a half of that is absolutely allowing a little bit more freedom. I don't know about you guys. I don't see it from Mikel. He's incredibly controlling. He's incredibly detail-oriented. And look, sometimes I don't think he strikes the right balance, but he's a new manager. He's young, and he's learning. And part of that is learning. I mean, for example, I think this really encapsulates the point where Arsene Wenger's model would be, I know it's a problem. I need them to know it's a problem, and I need them to figure it out. He will never tell you what you're doing wrong. It's been said in countless interviews that, many times players felt that they learnt from Arsene because they learnt what they were doing wrong. Not that he told them, you're doing it wrong, you need to do it this way. Mikel, I don't believe, is that type of manager. He's very, look, listen, this is what you're going to face. This is how you're not doing it correct. This is what I want you to do. And this is when I want you to do it. And so there's a little bit of that balance and that interplay. Look, I don't think it's holding us back to the point of it being, we have to move on Mikel. None of that. But I do think there's a level of structure to the team that needs to be loosened. Half the reason that maybe players don't feel like they can perform actions is because, I truly believe this, is that they don't know when the next opportunity may come. Part of this is about encouraging greater squad management, greater fluidity in general, not just in terms of the first 11 that we see in terms of Martin moving positions and whatnot, but players feeling like they can actually come in to offer themselves as an option. And I hate to keep repeating this, but I mean, to have Emile Smith-Rowe come in the run-in, have a man-of-the-match performance against Luton, it's unacceptable to me. Like, I can't, and it's beyond me liking the player. Like, if you put Eddie Nketiah there, if you put any bench player there, you give them an opportunity, right? They succeed, and then they don't see minutes after that, like any minutes, you're going to start to feel like, okay, well, I can't do anything right. The one opportunity that I was given, I killed it. And then now I'm not involved. And it's a level of, okay, maybe not just that. Bukayo, do you have to be the best defensive winger in the world? Do you have to accumulate the amount of defensive tackles and interceptions that you do? I'm not saying to remove it, but do you guys, you wingers, do you have to be that deep? Do we have to really platform other people? I don't know. Like, so that question mark, it's something that I would like to do. It's this old adage of what I would do is not what Mikel would do. Well, that's part of the problem in general, right? Like, we're asking, will Mikel change? I think he will. It's part of age. It's part of maturation. You become a little bit more open to ideas that you weren't previously. Yeah. Right.
I think it's a natural process, and it's naturally what happens as you gain more security in yourself. You can allow others to sort of bring ideas and stuff, and it's also, we've got a young squad. It's going to happen naturally. The question is, how much of it do we need to sort of lace in from the outside? But again, this is something
I would like to add. It's a question for maybe you guys. How do you feel Mikel responds to it? Because I think it's a natural progression for Mikel to allow these things. But no, like, genuinely, like, you're going to have a group now. Everybody's 24, okay? Everyone's pretty much pre-prime. When you have Saliba being the best center back in the world, Saka being the best right winger in the world, Martin Odegaard being one of the best attacking midfielders in the world, Ben White being one of the best right back, they weren't that when he took over. Do you guys, like, how do you guys feel he deals with personalities? Because naturally, when they become the superstars we want them to and we demand them to, how do you think Mikel evolves as a coach to deal with that? And can he deal with personalities that are a little bit more demanding, that are a little bit more questioning?
George, I would answer you, but we've run out of time. I think this is something for another day. I think this is something for another day. I think this is
Tune into the podcast on Wednesday.
Yeah, but I think we should discuss this at some point, because I think the whole conversation, this conversation, is really important, and it is one of Mikel's next steps. It's another, and it's a natural step, by the way.
5 ways Mikel can evolve.
There's your next TikTok. But I really do think we should discuss it. Maybe that could be our third pod, or certainly part of it. Lads, pleasure as always. Thanks so much for being here. You can check us out on Patreon, as always. Check us out on YouTube memberships. You can find us on Spotify. You can find George on X at No New Thing.
OnlyFans.
You can find Bhavs on onlyfans.com/AstridWet. And you can find me.
Whoa.
I don't know if that's the thing. And you can find me somewhere. Pleasure as always. Thanks for watching us wherever you are. Thanks for listening wherever you are. Thanks for listening to the Cannon Podcast. And thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Cheesy.